let's just briefly then, Aaron, to wrap up, talk about the summer transfer window. Again, it's been a week of where names have been thrown in. Last week it was James Ward-Prowse. I mean, that midfield area seems to definitely be an area which they're going to be looking at. James Ward-Prowse, think is that a realistic option?
Potentially. I mean, Newcastle could probably do with Southampton going down if that's the deal they wanted to do. He's been linked with moves away from this club a lot. It's never came to fruition. I know Villa were close to getting him a couple of years ago. Newcastle have had interest in the past. I know that you have been banging the drum, and I'm sure that if you ever get the chance to speak to Dan Ashworth between now and the summer, you would be banging that drum to his face. He would be the type of player that Newcastle need. Fantastic, with or without the ball. His set pieces and his free kicks are just ridiculous. For me, that midfield area is where they need to strengthen more than most.
I tweeted on Saturday because I was watching the Liverpool game against Bournemouth, and first off, how Van Dijk didn't get a red card or at least concede a free kick when he rugby tackled, I think it was Solanke, to the ground, and then it was Billen that got fouled in the box, which I thought was definitely a penalty. It's Billen I want to talk about because I've said before, when Newcastle played Bournemouth up here, he was so impressive. It was a horrendous game, but he was really impressive. And again, against Liverpool, very, very impressive. He looks like a very good Premier League player. I tweeted that out. Some people said, yeah, I would love to see him at Newcastle. Others said, nowhere near the level of where Newcastle United want to be. And I put back, well, actually, slow and steady. Newcastle might be battling for top 4, but the overarching message is still slow and steady. They're going to have to build a squad up, whether in the Champions League, Europa League, Conference League. They're going to need to add quality players. And Billen, he might not be Bruno standard, but he looks a very good Premier League player. And it's them kind of players which will underpin kind of the foundation that builds up for success in the future seasons to come.
Yeah, he looks very good, as you touched on. He played very well at St James's Park early in the season. Scored a really good goal, actually, little flick around the corner. He's creating more chances than anyone in this Bournemouth team. I think he might actually be their top scorer or close to being, from midfield. I get the argument, and I understand. I saw your tweet on Saturday. I thought you were going to get some of those responses about, they need to be aiming higher. But if they're going to qualify for Europe next season, they need a deep squad. Even if Philip Billen isn't starting at Newcastle, imagine bringing him off the bench. I mean, I'm not saying he's not good enough to start for Newcastle. I think he probably could. But yeah, look, I think he's going to have a lot of suitors in the summer, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't be against him joining.
I think it's just important, to kind of taper expectations. And also, I mean, I can't remember just how good Marnie was at Southampton, but obviously he was good enough for Liverpool to come in and buy him. But did he really set the world alight? I know he scored goals, but, there's nothing wrong with shopping at that level in the Premier League because there's always going to be good players about, for instance, Jordan Henderson coming from Sunderland. There's an example there. Jordan Henderson, despite the allegiances to Sunderland, a very, very good player. Just because you're not shopping around Europe's top clubs or the Premier League's top clubs doesn't mean you're not strengthening them with very good Premier League players.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we don't know how big the budget's going to be. It's still, without major sponsorship investment, it's going to be a case of maybe watching the pennies in some cases. And I think if Bournemouth go down, you can get him on a cheap. I think it'd be a good option.
Got one here from Buster Blood Vessel, and that's an interesting name on YouTube. Says, I'd love to see Tierney and Madison start our summer spending.
I think I'm going to be in the minority on this one, but Tierney just doesn't do it for me. Yes, he would be an upgrade on Target. Yes, he would be an upgrade on Burn. There's no doubt he's a talented player, but that injury record just sends shivers down my spine.
So I've not seen enough of him to be honest to make a judgment. Reading comments, people seem
very keen on him joining, but
yeah, his personality, big sheer on big fans of his approach to games off the pitch and his captaincy ability. I mean, but do we assume that's when Newcastle are really going to be looking for a left back? Does that spell the end of Jamal Lewis's time at Newcastle then?
I mean, Jamal Lewis, yeah, I think Eddie Howe's given him a chance, but for whatever reason it hasn't worked. I think Dummett as well is probably one that is going to be facing an uncertain future. I think they're definitely going to be looking for a top class left back. Tierney fits that bill, very, very good. He can play centre back, where he plays for Scotland, because obviously they've got Andy Robertson as well. As you said, leadership material, captain for Scotland, plays very, very well for Arsenal. But look, he just doesn't stay fit enough for me.
Darren says Jim Ward-Prowse and James Madison would be two great signings in the summer if the club are targeting these two to add quality. I mean, both of them would be quite something, wouldn't it? Derek says, I'd have Billy ahead of Maxi, but not Tierney, so he agrees with you there. And then we've got Roger there says, is Phillips a no chance? I'm assuming he's talking about Calvin there from Man City. Yeah, couldn't see that one having. And after the season Phillips has had as well, I don't think you'd want to be going out and spending the big money that Man City would demand when he's barely played.
Yeah, I agree with that. What did they pay, 60 mil or something for him?
A lot of
Something
money.
like that. Look, if you were signing him from Leeds, I would think that'd snap your hand off, but I'm not too sure. It seems to be another one of those players that's gone to City and their career's just taken a nosedive.
I think, though, we can see exactly when Newcastle are aiming for in the summer. You're going to want that defensive midfielder, someone you can stick a foot in. You're going to want a left back, and you're going to want either a number 10 slash forward.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think they need two midfielders. They need, I can see them buying a young centre back, a new first choice left back, even maybe another striker to make sure they've got three there. I think they need probably 5 or 6, new additions to be competing.
And I guess the big question is, because like Derek said there, James Ward-Prowse and James Madison would be a perfect way to start the summer spend. That sounds very ambitious. How big do we think Newcastle are going to go this summer? Have you got any inkling, any understanding to what to expect? Will it be, two big names, or will it be one big name and then you build kind of the second level around the big names you've already got there, like Bruno and maybe someone like James Ward-Prowse or James Madison?
I think they're going to be trying to copy this model that they've had so much success with, and that is trying to find a Bruno or Botman. You're not paying over the odds for them. It's not completely depleting your sort of transfer kitty. And look, they're going to have, if they qualify for, if they qualify for the Champions League, it's a different story. If they qualify for Europe in general, they're going to need a very, very deep squad. They're going to need a lot more additions in, which means you probably have to be a bit more frugal with your money if you're spending it on 6 or 7 players rather than 3. Can I see there being a big 70, 80 million pound record signing? Probably not. But I think they'll definitely invest, and I think they've got deals in the pipeline in terms of sponsorship that are going to give them a big, big hand financially. The kit sponsor being one of them. But yeah, until those sort of deals are done, they're sort of having to, stick to financial fair play and stuff like that. So, but yeah, big summer ahead, definitely.
The call for 6 or 7 new additions, I don't think anyone argues with that. That's going to be a massive task on not only Dan Ashworth to find the players and Steve Nixon, but also Eddie Howe and the coaching staff to implement those players into the squad.